you don't have to go in with all the answers. What we're trying to do is help the body feel at ease.
For the past 35 years, Nicole Henderson has been helping people heal and transform their lives. In this interview, she will talk about one easy but powerful technique you can use to feel better physically and mentally.
Hey, Scott, it's an honor to be here with you today, so thank you. And you're right. Today, we're going to be talking about EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique.
Okay, great.
It's a tapping technique that officers can use to help de-escalate the emotions in their body and bring their body back into balance so that they can feel better. Yeah.
That's awesome. Take notes so you can remember this stuff. That's something I would highly encourage if you're watching this video. Okay, so you said emotional freedom technique, commonly referred to as EFT. What do we do? What's the general gist behind it?
So the gist is that by using a tapping technique, it's also called a psychological acupressure, or it's been referred to as psychological acupressure. So instead of needles like acupuncture, we're just using a tapping technique running through the body, and we're going to help the body to release pain and emotional distress. So what it is believe that the tapping and being able to tap the body can actually create a balance in the energy systems. So according to the developer, Gary Craig, years ago, he said a disruption in the energy is the cause of all negative emotions and pain. So for you guys that are out there in the field, you imagine that you're engaging in a very emotional event. Something is happening. So you're triggered into that anxious, your adrenaline's pumping, you're getting ready to go. Your body, it's like you all of a sudden just don't feel well. Well, that anchors in that emotion to the body so that if you end up in a fight or flight situation in the future, it triggers that body to remember the distress that it felt before. And that causes a disruption in the energy signals in the body. So what we do with tapping is to de-escalate those emotions. When you start to feel something creeping up on you and you revert to this tapping technique, which we're going to teach you today, then you can help to restore the energy flow, natural and positive energy flow to the organs and systems within the body.
Let me get this straight. Over time, which it doesn't really matter how long, it could be a day, weeks, months, most police officers, years of this kind of reaction from the body, it can generate negative effects on the body.
Right. So it anchors in that negative emotion. It's stored somewhere in the body. Mm-hmm. So when another similar event transpires, the body remembers the emotional distress that it had experienced before, and often brings with it pain the second time around. So it starts to break the systems down or wear the systems down. And the tapping technique will help to restore the balance. My husband, when I first started doing EFT, he was laying here one night and he said, God, I just have this worst headache. And I said, let's try some tapping. And he thought it was like total mumbo jumbo. He's like, forget that crap. I'm not going to do it. And I jumped on top of him and I started tapping everywhere. And he started laughing. And all of a sudden he said, oh my God, my headache's gone.
We cops, we're a hard bunch. There's, and sometimes from what I hear, and I've done this myself, where things affect us, we don't want to admit it. And we say, I'm good. However, we have headaches, stomach problems, relationships are falling apart. Something's going on, even though we say, I'm good. So to those going through stress right now, whether you feel like, should I be in this job anymore? It's not like it used to be. I can't have fun anymore. I'm feeling depressed. I'm constantly having to go for alcohol. Like, this is why Nicole is here to help us fight through this, through something we can utilize ourselves. So yes, please take it away. I mean, how do we start? Is this a very complicated process? What is it?
This is so easy.
Good.
So it's a 5-step process. So this is what we're going to start with this. These are 5 easy steps. And as long as you remember, and you can write these down right now. Number 1 is we identify the issue. In order for the technique to be effective, you identify the issue or fear that you're having. So identifying the emotion. What emotion am I feeling? And what is it connected to? Like, is it connected to this particular call? Or we can ask our body, is this connected to a call that we've done previously, a year ago or 10 years ago. You know, a lot of military guys have a lot of this stuff that it runs in waves. So when you're again, your body, what you're doing is creating a focal point that you're going to pay attention to. Once you know what emotion you're experiencing, and you're pretty sure you know what it's linked to, now we're going to test how strong our emotion is. Okay, so this is number 2. Test the initial intensity of that emotion or pain, because it could just be a pain in your body as opposed to the emotion. Could be that headache that you were talking about, or stomach ache. Okay, so from 0 to 10, 0, I feel nothing, there's very little, or there's like no emotion, on up to 10, I'm like through the roof. I'm an 11, I'm a 20. So we want, as soon as you know at what level that emotion falls in line, 0 to 10, now what we're going to do is we're establishing the benchmark that helps us for our progress for the future. Okay.
Okay.
So number 3 is then the setup. And the setup is, prior to tapping, you need to establish a phrase that explains what it is you're trying to address. Okay. So you're focusing on 2 goals during this step 3. And the 2 goals are, number 1, acknowledging the issue, and then accepting yourself despite the problem. You're accepting whatever it is you're going through. You're not trying to run from it. You're not really trying to fix it. You'd like to have it fixed. This is like, you're just talking to your body and saying, okay, I understand that you're unhappy. I understand something's happening here. Okay, so the most common phrase that's used in the setup is, even though I have this fear, pain, or problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. Okay, so I'll say it again. The most common phrase that we use is, even though I have this fear, pain, or problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. Now there's a spot here on the chest, and you can, if you poke around a little bit, Scott, it feels tender. Like when you rub on it, can you find a spot for me that feels tender? Okay. So when we're establishing this phrase, like, even though I'm feeling this, or even though I don't know what I'm feeling, even though I don't understand what my body's doing to me, I completely and profoundly accept myself. So I rub and I say that 3 times, even though I have. So is there, most recently, if you can think of anything, any issues that you've had most recently, like let's say over the past week?
There's always, when I ride into work, that concern or fear thought running through my head, is this the day where I might have to respond to an active attacker?
Okay, when you find that, when you know that that energy is rising in you, that anxiousness, you find that soft spot, that tender spot, and you say, even though I'm feeling this right now, this fear or this anxiousness, I deeply and completely accept myself. Okay. And you do that 3 times. All right. Now we've established our setup. Remember, we're acknowledging the issue and then accepting ourselves despite. So we're using that phrase, and we're using it 3 times while we're rubbing on that soft spot. The other is also realizing that some things you can't fix. Like, you're going into a hot call on something negative, you feel like something really bad is going to happen. You can go into it also saying, I'm not sure that I can fix this. I'm unsure about myself. Or, even though I'm feeling inadequate at this time, I completely and profoundly accept myself. Okay. So you don't have to go in with all the answers. What we're trying to do is help the body feel at ease. The number 4 is the EFT tapping sequence, the emotional freedom technique sequence. There are 9 body meridians that we tend to work with. Okay. Well, actually, there's 12 major meridians that mirror each side of the body and correspond to internal organs. And I'm going to tell you what those are. So the karate chop point, this right along from your pinky finger to your wrist, this is the karate chop point. You know, okay, karate chop point is the small intestine meridian. Intestine meridian. Then we have the top of the head, which governs the vessel. This governs the whole vessel, the body itself. Okay. Then we have the eyebrow point, and this is the bladder meridian. Eyebrows or bladder meridians.
You mean what? You mean something up here?
Yeah, above the bladder. So it's like, we have, like I said, you've got to think about it this way. All of these organs that are within your body are all connected. They're not, they all flow and move, and everything has to everything functioning properly depends upon everything else functioning properly. So the meridians help to hold that all together, or to clear the energy so that those organs and systems work properly. So then we have this side of the eye, the temple, and this is the gallbladder meridian.
Okay.
All right, gallbladder under the eye, right under here, under the eye, and it can be either side. I tap, sometimes I'll tap on both sides, so it doesn't matter. Under the eye, this is the stomach meridian.
That'd be a big one for me.
Yeah, for my husband too. Under the nose, also governing vessel. Then there's the chin, which is the central vessel.
Okay.
The beginning of the collarbone, and you can rub and even feel how tender it is here. And this governs the kidney meridians.
Wow.
Kidney meridian. And then under the arm, the armpit. So the armpit is the spleen meridian. So tapping under the arm is the spleen. When we begin tapping, and usually if we have a really serious, like if I'm really ticked off or I'm really upset about something, I'm not going to worry about tapping everywhere on the body. I'm going to go to the one that works the best for me, or the one that I've noticed works the best even with clients, which is the karate chop. So if I'm driving down the road and I start to feel anger or anxiety coming up, I'm going to sit there and karate chop the steering wheel, or I karate chop my knee, or I'll pick another spot on my body to karate chop, because I want to work through it pretty quickly, no matter what it is. Even if I don't know what's bothering me at the time, if I move to this and just tell my body I accept whatever it is that's happening, and that I'm giving it a chance to restore balance, and then let go of it. So we begin our tapping sequence with the karate chop point while simultaneously reciting our setup phrase. We can either do this one that I talked about earlier, which is, even though I don't understand what's happening, I completely and profoundly love and accept myself, or even though I'm feeling fear or anger, whatever. In this instance, Gary Craig talks about going directly to the karate chop point first. So we're saying, even though I'm feeling, you said you were feeling sick to your stomach?
Sometimes I do, yes.
Okay, so even though I'm feeling sick to my stomach and I'm not exactly sure what it's connected to, I completely and profoundly accept myself. And we say that 3 times. And you don't have to say it out loud. The body can hear your thoughts. It understands what you're trying to do. You can even switch hands. Like, for some reason, mine's really sore today. I don't think I hit it on anything. So it tells me that I've got some trapped energy in that particular meridian. And so you're reciting your phrase 3 times. Now, if there's something connected to, let's say with your stomach, you feeling that stomach pain, let's say the emotion behind it is disappointment. Okay. So then I would begin my tapping sequence from karate chop point to the top of my head. And we just use the term disappointment. And we're going to be tapping 7 times. Okay. There's something about that 7 times. And we're going to move here and we're going to say disappointment. Temple, disappointment. Under the eye, disappointment. Under the nose, disappointment. And you can add in phrases like disappointment in my fellow workers, disappointment that I don't feel supported by the staff, by the brass within the organization. Disappointment that I'm alone. I'm going into a hot call and I'm scared half to death. So you can change your words. I just felt, for some reason, I just had a rush of energy. So if you feel when you're tapping a rush of energy through your body, you know your body's moving the energy. Okay, it's clearing those meridians. So simple stuff. Then, what you're going to do is, when you work through all of the areas, so if you're starting up here on disappointment through, keep going until you hit the underarm point. If you feel like you need to move to the lower parts of your body, go ahead and tap. It's not going to hurt anything. Like I said, I've beat up my whole body and been bruised from head to toe going through this process. You don't have to tap hard. Okay. When you're angry, or when you're angry at yourself, you might have a tendency to do that. We're not here to beat ourselves up. For those that are watching, just know tender, loving care, energy, soft energy works just as well as beating yourself up.
So we don't need to pound the steering wheel. We can just we can tap it.
No, although I have done that.
Right.
So you always start at the top and work your way down. Start at the top, work your way down through the body. And then you can always refer back to the karate chop point when you need to. Remember, we tested the initial intensity of our emotion in the beginning. 0 to 10. Well, here at number 5 is now we test the intensity again after we've run through the energy a couple of times. We're thinking about the particular event that has caused the subluxation in our energy, caused a disorder, dysfunction in our energy field. We go back and ask the body, all right, where am I now? 0 to 10. Did I come down? Did I come off of the 10? Am I at an 8 or a 7? Or have I made it down to a 2 or a 1? Sometimes it's okay. Somebody says, hey, I've made it to a 1, and I think I'm okay with it. I don't think I need to go through it again. I'll do it again later. They can pick it up at home and do it on their own.
Okay.
So again, simple stuff, 5 easy steps. What I ought to do is give you a list of all the different emotions that you can draw from, so that when somebody's looking at that list, they can say, oh yeah, God, I didn't even think that I was pissed off at the one of my partners this morning because they totally dissed me, or I had a fight with my wife at home and now I'm taking this into work and now I'm going in all knotted up. Sometimes you have to run through a barrage of things, run through that event over and over again, and often look back to what happened before the event took place, what triggers the intensity, and then you can even look to what happened after. All you have to do is move through the tapping.
I am glad that there is something for officers to do on our own. And I've got people that have told me, fellow officers that have told me, I don't trust anyone. I don't feel like talking to anyone, but yet they're dealing with things in bad ways. Not all. This is here and there a few, but I've heard it. I myself have been in bad places before mentally, where just total depression, hopelessness. I am so grateful that there is something like EFT where we can do it ourselves, even throughout the course of the day. That's just great.
There's another point that I wanted to bring up is that often physical dis-ease begins with an emotion, something emotional or mental that hits first. Okay. So those guys that end up getting hurt on the job, those ladies that get hurt on the job, often something triggered, an emotional or mental stimulus triggered us to fall into that trap of hurting ourselves. So That's why that's a really good point for focusing on using EFT. This is an easy and effective tool to eliminate the need for, I'm not saying avoid physicians and hospitals, but it cuts down on the need for it if you work on those things that trigger.
Well, it's just one more tool in the toolbox that we can use that we absolutely have to use in a healthy way to cope with it. Because I've said on all my YouTube videos, I say in my books, we're not just immune as humans to the work we encounter in policing. We can't just go through it, not cope with it in any way, and expect to function normally. It's going to take effect on us, bottom line. Some officers do a better job of coping with it than others, but that's the whole purpose of this video. That's the whole purpose of my channel, just in the books. And what you're doing is to teach people different coping mechanisms, because you absolutely have to cope. Heck, with life in general.
There is no limit to what you can use EFT for.
Where can people find you if they want to learn more about EFT? Or actually, as Nicole told me prior to this interview, she works internationally. You can connect with her. Where can people find you?
Yeah, empoweredintuitive.com.
To those who are watching, if you did like it, please click the like button below. Really thank Nicole for being on. Check the About section below. That's where I'll put a link to her website. And I really encourage you to look into EFT. I do know that it has helped other people that I do know who were carrying a lot when it came to hopelessness, depression, and PTSD. That's why I had her on. So I would highly encourage you to look into it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and stay safe.